This is the year that Fink beats the stomach.
Welcome to Fink Beats the Stomach, our bi-weekly take on the world of competitive eating. I am Mike Sullivan.
And I'm James Splendori.
Episode number 99.
The great one.
The great one.
The great Gretzkino.
And James, I feel like we got to get it right into this.
Let's do it.
For episode 99, in honor of the great one, we have quite the great guest.
That's absolutely right.
On our show for this evening. Someone who I know that you and I have been talking about for a long time. As
100%.
Someone we would love to get on the show. One of the greatest people that we've been able to meet getting involved in the world of competitive eating.
That's not hyperbole, Mike.
And someone who we're really excited for any of the listeners and viewers who don't know him to get to know. It's the always lovely, talented, and great Mr. Oliver Brooks. Oliver, welcome to Fink Beats the Stomach.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
It is, like I said, an honor and a
It's a
pleasure.
really amazing introduction.
I'm no George, but I'm working on it.
It's all right. That might be better than the one he gave me.
Which actually I do want to get into. But
yes.
But Oliver, I mean, obviously we know you, and I know all of the competitive eaters know you and hold you in very high regard. And I know that my wife Kate and great fan of Fink Beats the Stomach and supporter Maeve Daly know you. But some of the listeners might not know you. So I guess right off the bat, let's give them a little bit of an intro. How do you fit into this crazy and wacky world of competitive eating?
I help run the show at Nathan's. I am next to George pretty much most of the day. I guess you could call the stage manager for the event, and I really just help make sure that the vision that George and Sam put together makes it on the stage to the best of my abilities.
The stage master, as it were.
I mean, I know you'd never say as much, but we do consider you that for sure.
Absolutely. And I think for what I always love is for someone watching the show, whether in the crowd or on TV, you're the very animated guy behind George, usually in a cowboy hat and a headset.
Always in a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Now, is that for visibility or just because you like the look?
It started off that way, and now it just kind of feels like tradition that I have to wear it. I have been told by people at Nathan's that I am the only person besides George not allowed to wear a Nathan's hat.
That's great.
I have some sort of special waiver in order to wear my own cowboy hat.
And it's a deserved one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so Mike has done the research, and I've now taken the information he's given me, and I'm going to ask you your first question, which is really just you're here for New York. You're here in New York every July 4th. But as far as I know, you were also a New Yorker by choice during the rest of the year as well. But hail from Kentucky. So how does a Kentucky boy make his way up north with us?
I wanted to get into film and television and moved up here right after college. It was the only place I was going to go to. My first year in New York, I've been watching Nathan's on TV on ESPN for, as many years as it had been on at that point. I forget how many years they've been on at this point, but, probably 5 or 6 years on ESPN too. And I came down to Nathan's on the 4th of July to check it out in person. And got lucky enough. A friend of mine was working the event, and I was at a party at his house later that night. We were chatting about what had happened earlier in the day, and when he mentioned that he was working there and he worked for the event, I couldn't believe my luck, and just poured text messages into his phone for the next year. I think every month on the first of the month, I was like, "Hey, just remember, I want to be on that team for Nathan's next year."
Right.
And sure enough, he put me on the team, and I've been doing it ever since. Eventually, making my way up to the big chair.
Now, what was your first role? So you beg your way on. What are you doing that first year?
The first year, my biggest role was I ran the scissor lift for George to go up for the sermon.
That's a big first role.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big first role. That was almost the only thing I did. I don't remember if that year or not. I used to help when Joey would come through the crowd on the palanquin.
Sure.
I was the guy that would separate the crowd. I would get 5 or 6 police officers to come and help separate the crowd and make sure that Joey was lined up to come in that way. Um, I have at various points helped just corral talent. I have been the person like next to the stage helping put talent up on stage. And then when the person above me stepped aside, I got the call to actually be up on stage with George.
And you sort of breeze by the wrangling talent part, but as my friend Mike is will say and is shaking his head, yes, that's no small feat into itself.
Oh no, it's like herding cats.
It is not. Back in the days, I don't know if you guys remember the meat eating contest.
Oh, absolutely.
With the kids, we used to help pick kids out of the crowd and get them to get their parents to sign the waivers. It has just always been such a magical day, though. Like I can't ever imagine missing one at this point. I think for the people that watch it on TV, it is certainly its own unique event. But I know you guys know very well the real show is what happens off camera on stage for the 20,000 or so people that show up in person. It's the bassoon quartet and the interpretive dance numbers and the opera singing and all those things that come together to just make it such a special day.
And that really is something that I feel like I didn't appreciate until
I didn't even know it happened until we showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you?
Exactly.
You get like the 2-second blip if you're watching on ESPN of like, oh, is that somebody singing? And then they're like, it's Rich and Adam or whoever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think, Oliver, is the biggest misconception, or what do you get asked about the most from friends and family who know that you're involved in terms of kind of what goes on during the day, during the contest, during the event? Is there a certain, I guess, like perception that you see consistently for people that haven't experienced it on their own?
It's either that people are just grossed out of the concept, or that they think it's really awesome. Like there's no middle ground. It's people that are either like, nobody's ever just uninterested in it.
Right.
So the one way or another, there's some sort of polarity there. But for the most part, people are either grossed out or super excited. For the people that I know who have been down there, I've had friends and family that have come down, and they've gotten to experience it in the way that you and I have, where they see all of the amazing things that are happening. They see that it's a carnival atmosphere. And then they get to spend the day, at Coney Island on the 4th of July, which is also a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
Now, so obviously, I think most of our listeners have not been down there. And you sort of mentioned the opera singer, you mentioned the bassoon, you mentioned a couple of things. What's your favorite of those that have happened? Like, what's your favorite, either whether it's like every year we do the same bit and they're the best people, the Bun Boys come down and they're hilarious and they're fantastic, or like that one time we got X to happen? Like, what do you look back on? You're like, that's my favorite bit we did.
Honestly, it's kind of simple, but we did the world's shortest car race, and we had two. Were you guys there for that one?
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know.
We had two. I don't know who they were, but we had two NASCAR drivers that showed up, and we had two little tiny pedal cars. And the stage itself is, I believe, 12 or 16 feet deep. I think it's 16 feet deep. And the car was each of these cars was probably about 6 feet long. So we had two bunnettes lined up, one with the green flag to start and one with the checkered flag to finish. And it was, these guys went 6 feet. And it was lightning quick. And I'm not sure that it got the reaction out of the crowd. But I just was giggling the whole time. I thought it was so funny that we were doing this thing. And that's, it's those things that come from the mind of George and Sam that are just amazing to witness.
And can you talk more about that, Oliver? Because I feel like we were talking recently, and I didn't realize how you are part of those, especially now, you're part of those conversations in the planning periods, and people might not realize that it really is, those group of guys who are coming up with these crazy, wacky ideas and kind of seeing what we could pull off on July 4th. Like, what are those brainstorming sessions like in the lead up to the 4th?
So I'm not in the brainstorming sessions. I come into the picture once it's a little bit more fleshed out.
Okay.
By the time I get involved, there's usually at least a partial run of show. Sam does the run of show and puts it all together. And we go through that, or we go through a list of, of all of the bits and pieces that we're going to have. And we make notes and, go through things, and we say, okay, we're going to allot this much. Like the house band, we always, we always kick off the show with the house band, and they have a great long stretch. We always try to bring them back in the second half.
And they're dynamite. They are always good.
They're always great. I've used the house bands there for other events that I've done. I've hired those guys for other events over the years. But we go through and we run through each of the bits, and usually we meet at like a diner or occasionally at the Major League Eating office. And we sit there for like an hour and a half, and we just all giggle. And like Sam and George have been, going through these things for a while at this point. And they clearly have bits that they think are going to work, and bits that they're not sure about. And they definitely asked me for my opinion on some of them. And I've had my opinion heard and reflected in the run of show, in the past, but they're so in sync with each other, and they know what makes them laugh. And I think that that's the best part of it, is that they're not doing this necessarily for the laugh. They think that something's funny,
right?
And they do it because of that.
And what percentage do you think they really believe are going to land? Like I think it's like 30% of the
with
stuff
the crowd
with
versus
the crowd,
they know
yeah.
that 100% is landing with them.
Right. Like, I think no more than 30% is my guess.
I would, that's probably a good line.
Yeah.
Maybe, on a good year, maybe 45. The bassoon quartet, I think they really thought that was going to land, and I'm not sure if it did or not, but I don't think they cared, because Sam thought, a bassoon quartet named Breaking Winds was,
right.
Just the funniest thing that there was, and they were great. It was a great act, but I'm not sure if it was a laugh for the audience or if the audience enjoyed it, but Sam sure did.
I think my favorite last year may have been, I think this was last year, the song that was going to unite the world, and it was Good Vibrations.
That was this year.
That was this year.
Yeah.
That got me. And Sam was standing not far away from me,
It's
just kind of like waved to me.
the anthem of all of the global countries of the world, or something. It's some sort of Sam.
And like they bought or probably rented all of those flags.
Yeah,
I loved it.
The processional of all the flags. It was that was pretty amazing. And when we sit and have these preliminary conversations, they definitely have ones that are like, we know this is going to slay.
Right.
We know this is going to be amazing. This is the one that we're like keeping in our pocket. They both are like, giddy little school children when we get to that part of the run of show, and they both just laugh to each other, and like we can't even, get through it without breaking. And
how early are you getting, like, how early do those meetings start in terms of like the calendar?
My first meeting is usually mid-June.
Wow. I love that it all comes together like at the end. It really is like you're like putting together just like a last second run a show here.
Well, Sam is pretty good about it. Sam has it, marked out as best as he can.
Okay.
But the nature of it is, it's a live event, and you have to do some of it live.
Right.
So Sam times it out as best as he can, but Sam has so many other, I know Sam runs so many events over the course of the year.
He's a madman.
And I haven't taken part in many of the other ones or any of them except for one that he wasn't involved in. But, he just has too many other obligations on the 4th of July. So he basically turns it over to me.
Right.
I meet with George on the 3rd every year, and we meet out and we do a rehearsal we do sound checks, and like the choir usually comes out on the 3rd. Badlands always comes out on the 3rd. Badlands and George just go to town, and there's a good number of people just wandering around every year down there, and they certainly get a crowd in. It's always a fight with, I got to tell George to conserve his voice because he puts so much energy into that on the 4th itself. But we go through and we rehearse all of the introductions, and we rehearse, a lot of the other run of show on the 3rd every year. And then we do a little bit of rehearsal on the morning of the 4th before we get going. But usually it's just doing the introductions once for George to get one more pass at it, because that's really the main piece of the show.
And I've always wondered, Oliver, how involved is ESPN in terms of the stage show? Like, because as we're talking about it, it's a very different experience being a viewer through the lens of watching it through ESPN versus being there live. Are they involved in any of that stuff outside of maybe I'm sure there's some timing aspects because of TV?
Yeah, it's really just the timing. We do usually 1 or 2 pre-tapes. So we'll, when we do the sermon live, but we do it for ESPN to pre-tape it
Okay.
and then roll it into the show. So when they have their camera feeds up, they're just recording it on the truck, and then at 12:01 or whenever the introductions are over, they roll that clip back in. We have in the past had to do that more than once, for whatever reason. A cue was off or something like that. I think once the music was a little off or something, so we had to reset it and do it again. But beyond that, they're not really all that involved, except for the couple of live hits that we need to get. And really, it's the introductions are the biggest piece of that, both for the women and the men. The women's show gets a bit of a short shrift on the network, but it's always on ESPN3. And we need to make sure that we hit the timing for that so that gets started at the right time.
Absolutely. And what about what's it like being George's right-hand man on a day like that? Because you really, no one else has a position like you do in the world of competitive eating, because I really don't think there is that role at other contests.
Right.
And you're right up there. You're helping him, kind of run through the show and so on. So what is it like, and especially all the years that you've been doing it, working alongside George?
Honestly, it's the most fun day of the year for me, which is why I keep coming back to do it. I guess you could call it a high pressure situation, but I've been doing live events and theater my whole life. So being in a live environment is not something that really gets me stressed out. I feel most alive at that point.
Right.
And that's the thrill for me. Getting to be there next to him. I mean, really it's, he and I are working in tandem where he's working out with the crowd and I'm making sure that the next thing is ready to go. So if the Bunettes are dancing and doing one of their pieces, he might be chatting with the Brooklyn Borough president or getting ready for the next piece. And, I'm watching to make sure he knows what his next cue is. I'm always dropping words in his ear to say, hey, this is next, Badlands is next, whatever it is. And then I'm working, and I have a whole team on the ground that I'm on radio with, and I'm communicating with them to make sure that everybody has all the cues lined up. A lot of times we have an act that maybe was late, or we can't find them, or we're running long, or we're running short, we need to fill. So it's really just, it's watching the time, it's watching the run of show, and it's saying, hey, we need to fill 3 minutes, let's get the Bunettes back up here.
Right.
And my team hustles, and Bunettes run back up, and they're standing by, and I communicate which sound cue we're going to go into, and we go into it from the ground. Hopefully it looks like a seamless show. It can be a little chaotic, and it's very, very hard to hear because the audio is so loud and there's just so many people around. So that's the biggest issue we have on game day, is that it's just so loud. It makes it really hard to hear, but but it's amazing to watch him work, and I try as often as I can to just sit back and watch him do his thing, because there really is no one like him that I've ever met.
Well, that's actually what was interesting to me as you started sort of talking that through, is sort of that last piece you said, which is like you enjoyed it, you went sort of as a spectator, you watched on TV, and then all of a sudden now obviously you really love your work, but are you actually able to enjoy the contest? Like, do you watch the contest? Do you get to see the results, or are you too enthralled in the run of show to even really get a chance to go through and see that stuff?
Once the contests start, for those 10 minutes, it's really, there's nothing else happening. So I do get to watch a little bit. That's usually an opportunity for me to go get a drink of water. Right. I usually run in the back and eat 6 or 7 of my own hot dogs at that point, or as many as I can scarf down in the couple of minutes that I have. That's checking in with my team. But, at that point, like, especially for the men's contest, after that, the only thing we do is media availability. We do the award ceremony, and then we do media availability. So There's no more like, hey, make sure so-and-so's standing by. so I do get to sit back and enjoy it a little bit. I always get a great picture of the confetti, and I get to be right up there on the beachside stage and get a great view of it. I will say, if I can go back for 1 minute, actually, my first year working it was the year that was the first year without Kobayashi.
Wow.
When he came up on the stage, and I actually got to be right there. Like, he came up on the catwalk and leapt down to the lower stage, and I was right there next to him, basically, as all of that was going down, which was pretty cool for me.
Well, so did you have a sense he was going to be there, or did you see him in the crowd?
I did not see him in the crowd personally, because I was in the crowd myself.
Right.
But I think I remember someone saying that he was around, but certainly I don't think anybody knew what was going to transpire, or at least no one on our team.
Right. And are you are you a fan of the sport outside of the Nathan's contest? I mean, you're there for such a notable
Very
event
much.
in history. So yeah, are you following it the other 364 days of the year to some degree?
Maybe not 364 days, but certainly a good number of them. I keep tabs here and there. Listening to your guys' show fills me in quite a bit, which is great.
Big mistake. Huge.
No, it's great. It's great. I know what's going on. I have competed in one Nathan's qualifier.
Yes.
That I did for fun, just to I was local in New York, so I went and did the one. I have done a couple of other regional eating competitions that I found in other places. I am the 2017 Nebraska State Fair Pizza Hut Buffalo wing eating champion.
Wow, I didn't realize.
We got to redo the intro now. We got to introduce you properly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, get that back. Rewind that. It was a sprint race to finish 8 boneless wings without the use of your hands.
Oh, wow.
And I have watched competitive eaters for many years, so it was I did better than I expected to, I guess. And I won a free pizza coupon. So they did not invite me back or give me a flight back for the next year. I was a little disappointed, but that's all right. I still have the emotional victory.
So you mentioned eating in a qualifier. I was actually in the crowd at that Citi Field event. What was it like eating? Although I know you said it for fun, but you seem to be taking it pretty seriously. You're a serious competitor at that table. What was it like eating there for real?
I was unsure until about 5 minutes out that whether or not I was going to legitimately give it a shot, or whether I was going to sit and eat one hot dog. I don't know if you guys ever. I'm sure you guys read the Zen and the Art of Hot Dog. The Crazy Legs piece, and the 1 year where he ate the one dog, and I was kind of following that with my idea. And then I did not realize that George does introductions at all of the events.
Yep.
And because I'd never been to another one, and George gave me what I thought was a fantastic introduction, which was really, he was just auditioning that for to use it at Nathan's for somebody else on the 4th of July.
He's always working, George.
Always working. But he gave me a great introduction where something along the lines of there's alternate worlds, and there might be one in which this man can eat more hot dogs than Joey Chestnut, but that is not this reality. In this reality, maybe he could eat 9 or 10. And I laughed. I was so proud to have my own introduction. And when the gun went off, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. And I got to 10 and I stopped. And I felt, I was pretty full. I felt pretty good. I'd never practiced. I'd never done a practice round or anything. So I felt like 10 was a respectable showing. Nick Weary was at that event, and I believe that was his first qualifying win. He ate 44 or something.
Yes.
So it was pretty apparent very quickly that there was no legitimate shot of me even competing. So I did my 10 and I just sat back and watched. It was really cool. It was great to be up on stage. I'm not usually in front of the crowd, or in the spotlight at least. So it was a lot of fun to see it. Then I found a video of it posted on YouTube at one point. So I got to kind of watch for a minute. It wasn't just of me, obviously, but it was cool to go back and watch it and see it and hear the introductions again, and it was a lot of fun.
Was that posted by Mike Sullivan?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe
so. No, it wasn't you guys. It was somebody else who's probably got a competing podcast out there. I'm not sure, but
I don't know if anyone else decides to waste their time by having a bi-weekly podcast.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. You know what I mean? There's people coming for your shot
sure.
all the time.
Do you have any and you can defer this one, you can plead the fifth, but I'm curious if you have any favorite competitive eaters out there, because Nathan's is always the one that brings out obviously the best and the best, so you've seen them all come through on both sides. Are there any that really stand out in your mind?
I mean, George says it every year that Badlands is the greatest man around, and to me, Badlands has been there since day one. He's been at every one I've done. He comes out on the rehearsal day, so I get to spend a good bit of time with him on the third every year. And there's nobody better than that in my mind. I mean, obviously, it's amazing to watch the greatness that is Joey do his thing every year. He's I don't really hang out with Joey,
right?
But Badlands certainly is my favorite person to just be around. I have watched a bunch of videos recently of Adam Moran. And his YouTube channel is a lot of fun. I like that he was sort of a villain last year. I think he's going to wear that pretty well if he continues to do this and comes back next year. It's kind of nice to have the bit over the pond, and it's kind of cool to have a heel, because I don't think we've had that at least on the 4th of July in a while. Mickey's great. Sarah Reinecke is lovely. Every single one of them that shows up they're all wonderful people. Like there's never been one of them that's like, what a dick.
Right.
Well, so you actually spurred this, something I hadn't even thought about before, but Mike and I always talk about, like, we wish we could script these. Like, we wish that it wasn't an actual competition and that we could script the way that these play out, because it would be sort of way more fun if this were WWE.
Sure.
So, and you mentioned when you said, like, Adam played a great heel, like, what do you think makes what is, like, the best contest? Like, what storylines make you excited? Like, if you could script the, like, storylines coming in, what gets you excited? What do you think is the most interesting thing about a 4th of July contest?
For me, I always go back and rewatch the show after it's over, because ESPN always does a great job of building up the storylines and giving you backstory on these guys. They're like, they show up, I see them in the back room for a minute, I wish everybody a good show. And, and then, we get in fights about whose water goes where and things like that, and then they're eating and they go off, and then, we hang out at the bar afterwards. But the building of the show, it's great to have competition is the biggest thing. You guys, I know in some of your roundups or recaps have like talked about like the second and third tier.
Yep.
And like those are really fascinating storylines, but they just don't get any press. They don't get any coverage.
Exactly.
I find it fascinating to see those little, who got 18 versus 18 and a half.
Yep.
And it's those stories of like each person next to each other pushing each other, because Joey's going to throw down 70, and for the last couple of years we know no one's going to come close. Every year when I see Sam and George for that first meeting, I always go, hey, like, what are we thinking? And like, a lot of times they're like, it's going to be Joey, it's going to be Mickey.
Yep.
There's not a lot of suspense in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So seeing who comes in third, seeing who comes in second, seeing who comes in fourth, who's just off the podium.
Yep.
It's those things that are a lot more fun to watch. But it's hard to see it on stage. It's hard to see it on TV. It's, because all you've got is the Bunettes flipping the cards over and the unreliable ESPN counters. And it's kind of hard to tell those things, but seeing after the fact who did what and like who set their personal best and and who had a shockingly low number. Those are the things that I find a lot more interesting than whether Joey got 73 or 74.
And if you have listened, which apparently you have, and we thank you so much to the show, then you know that we completely agree, and that Fink Beats the Stomach. I feel one of Mike's like main pieces of the show has been like we want to give shine to those people. Like
For sure.
Is there any way on the 4th that like the show can do that? Like it has to be so difficult. There's so much going on. You have to deal with ESPN. You have to deal with 20,000 people. Like, is there a world in which there's a viable way to sort of big up those people on the 4th that you could see ever happening?
Besides when Joey's off the table,
Right.
it's going to be hard. You know, I mean, when he's off the table, I think it's going to be awesome because, not that we won't all miss, seeing greatness out there, but it's going to be an open field, I think, and I think that'll lend itself to a lot of suspense. But he's such a big draw, and for on ESPN, it's you're going for the eyeballs, and the eyeballs are coming for the spectacle.
Yep.
And the spectacle is not seeing whether Gideon sets a personal best.
Right.
It's Joey Chestnut who's got his own line of condiments, and like people. There are a lot of people out there who still don't realize that Kobayashi isn't on the table anymore.
It's so annoying.
So like they're just there for their their 10 minutes on the 4th of July while they're at a barbecue, and they tune it in for a few minutes to see like what the record is. And I'm not sure that ESPN has the ability to change that.
Right.
I mean, they've done great pieces on other people. I think they did a great piece on was it Darren Breeden maybe 2 years ago, where they like followed him around his hometown and like
And they did a great Stoney one.
Carmen. That was Carmen, I think. He was playing soccer with his brother.
Yeah. Totally. That was Carmen. So like, they've built up these other storylines, but then the guys still get just
20
pasted.
dogs less.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I think it's hard for them. But once whenever Joey decides to hang it up, I think there will at least be some new storylines that they can go after.
Yeah.
And I think that for me that'll be more interesting. I'm not sure that the ratings don't take a big dip if Joey's not there.
Right.
But
does that affect your life as someone who's really sort of on the scenes? Whether I mean, I know you only know Joey as the champ, but if
Or the one Stoney year.
Yeah, I guess as the one Stoney year, like, does it affect your life if there is more competition in how you sort of run the show, or is it sort of the same no matter what?
No, it won't change anything for me except just as an employee, as a person who's there, to serve a purpose. As a fan, absolutely,
Yeah.
I've been following this for a long time and I've been a part of it for a long time. So, I definitely have like a vested interest in this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change anything operationally for me.
Yeah.
Just emotionally.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's something that we maybe embarrassingly ponder pretty often because, what makes Nathan as amazing as it is obviously the spectacle of the stage show and the greatness of the eaters.
And we
there.
love the bits, obviously.
And the bits and the gong and all that.
Of course.
The DJ
Gong of
polos
greatness.
and all that, yeah.
Oh, I miss DJ Polo.
I miss DJ Polo too.
We all miss DJ Polo.
Oh, he was so great.
But as a fan, and if you're following the circuit, and you see, every single eater who's on that stage was at a qualifying event.
Yeah.
And a lot of those qualifying events, they had to duke it out with someone else, and so there are those like little micro storylines that are going on there. But Oliver, to your point, it's hard to translate that to the stage show, especially when in the grand scheme of things, Joey's still beating the next closest person by quite a bit,
And frankly, should be the biggest story. Like,
absolutely,
you shouldn't be serving this segment, which is maybe 3 of us of the watching public, and also 3 of us are not even watching, so we're there. So yeah, it would be ridiculous to serve that small bit of a public.
But it is something to be said on the fact that Joey's not winning every single eating contest that he enters in, and I haven't fact checked this, but I believe with only 1 contest left on the calendar, Esper might have more wins over Joey this year, or at a very least, I think they're tied. So it's interesting that Hot Dogs ends up being, I wouldn't even say the great equalizer. It's the great, chestnut-izer, because no one can touch him in terms of Hot Dogs. And
what's Esper's record at Hot Dogs? Do you know off the top of your head?
50 something, maybe 50, maybe 51.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's even into the 50s really.
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe
that's
53.
nothing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
that's a big leap to 72 and a half, 73 and a half,
Right.
you know?
74.
Jesus. Okay.
74.
So like, why would you even? I mean, we know why. We just said why, but like, if I was ESPN or if I were the Shays or if I was whoever, I'd be like, no, this is the guy we're running with. Like, this is the most interesting thing happening to the most amount of people, which is ultimately what. I mean, you're the entertainment specialist, but I assume that that's sort of what goes in entertainment generally.
Yeah, for sure, and especially when you get one set of headlines per year.
Yeah.
You know, like if this was getting more TV coverage, like, you know, maybe it'd be different. But, you know, they get one big show, they get one set, you know, every year on the 5th of July. They have a headline in every single paper, you know, certainly across America, and I'm sure internationally as well, in a lot of them. You know, they get one headline, and I think that was, you know, I think when Kobayashi came back that one year, I think he sort of stole that thunder a little bit. You know, which certainly adds intrigue, because there's, you know, no press is bad press. You know, but you know, Joey gets that one headline, and that really promotes Major League Eating and the things that they do. And, you know, they run a really great operation. They're very smart about it. You know, they get that one headline, Joey gets all the press, everybody knows who Joey is now more and more.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's what sells, and you gotta put butts in the seats,
For sure.
as it were.
So Oliver, as we wrap this up, I wonder, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, you know, anything that you hope they do in the future for the contest or the event. What is, if Sam and George came to you for 2020 and said, Oliver, we have an unlimited budget this year, what's the one or two things that you would want to add to the 2020 Nathan's contest?
I mean, you know, the funniest things, the best things that are out there, I will leave that to those guys. I have pitched all sorts of things over the years that just, you know, whether I think about them well in advance or they come to me just being around those guys and seeing the funny things that they're coming up with. I have always thought it'd be cool to do some sort of like bald eagle flyover.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've always thought that would be pretty cool. I've had conversations with them about that, but it just makes it really tough with so many people around in such a small landing area. We talked about trying to get one just to like perch up on the big hot dog sign up above, but I'm not sure that's all that feasible. You know, a lot of the bigger stage things that we've done in the past, it's just, you know, it's the city is, you know, it's very hard to get permits for things.
Sure,
right.
And, you know, the city understandably has a big hand in what we do, and we work very closely with them on all the permitting things. So, like, you know, we used to do things like tossing out T-shirts and T-shirt cannons and stuff like that. And, like, you know, that was always kind of fun for the crowd, but it was always a little problematic. So, like, I was sad to see those kinds of things go away.
Sure.
Drinking
but
in
I
the crowd has
understand
gone
that,
away.
yeah, which, like, but, you know, I understand that's all
Yeah.
stuff that, like, you can't have that on city streets. And even though it's an arena that we build out for one day, it is, you know, it's surfing Stillwell Avenues,
Sure.
and we have to maintain some control over that. So, you know, honestly, like, I would just love to see, you know, good weather, not too hot, a great show. Like, anything George and Sam come up with, I'm gonna just absolutely giggle and laugh myself to death watching and getting to be around them. I don't know, if I come up with another with a better pitch, I'll come back to you guys and let you know, and maybe we can hit them from three ends. But
Yeah.
Well, if you maybe you gave us your best one, but other than the eagle, is there one that you've pitched that you thought for sure was going to land and that they were like no, or is there like a wild one that was just out of the box?
I have pitched an event for them
Ooh.
that didn't get much traction.
Is this a Fink Pizza Stomach exclusive?
No, this is an exclusive. Yeah, my I can't take credit for this. My buddy helped me come up with this, or he really came up with the original idea. But there are, besides I think the Buffalo Bowl competition, and maybe one other one, to my knowledge, there are no other sprint races
Right.
in the Major League Eating circuit.
Buffalo's the only consistent one. There's a few here and there that have popped up, but it fizzled out. Yeah.
So my buddy came up with the idea for the Tour de France, which would be a sprint race through all of the world's great tubed meats.
That's a great idea.
You know, like fish sausage from Japan, and you could have all sorts of German things out there, and like every culture has their own sort of tubed meat. So we thought it'd be cool to like have pre-portioned amounts of those and have to sprint through each one of them. But it's very hard to start an event like that from scratch,
right?
As it turns out. So you got to have the venue, you got to have the weekend, you got to have a sponsor, you got to have all these things. So I did my best to try to come up with some solutions for that, but ultimately there wasn't enough there to get it going.
Well, if any tube meat sponsors are out there,
I think Pizza Summit could sponsor. We would, but we actually need our own sponsors first, I think.
Yeah,
All right.
But we're behind you, and I love this idea. This is what I've been waiting for this whole time.
Celebrates like all of the nations,
multiculturalism,
yeah,
right?
And
we'll get the flags out behind the stage.
Absolutely.
It'll
You
be
can
a really
use the
great
flags
vision.
rented from last year.
Yeah,
Exactly. You actually get them on a 1-year rental. It's the same cost whether you're renting it for 1 day or 1 year. So.
Well, Oliver, I have one more question before we let you go.
Sure.
And then I have one last softball
Okay,
one, so
okay.
we'll do two.
Okay.
These are
quick
two
ones.
softball ones because this
Okay.
one's just great. But I was thinking this the whole time. So, do you ever wonder, man, it's July 4th, I'm sweating, I'm hot. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. But I wish I was just doing blank right now.
Never once.
I love it.
There you
Okay. You were born to do it.
It's the best day of the year. I talk about it all year long. People all over know that I do it. People, part of wearing the hat at this point now is like, my family can see me on TV.
Right.
So that, I get calls, I get text messages during the day that's like, hey, I just saw you on ESPN.
Nice.
It's so much fun. I hope to never miss one, but I'm sure that day will eventually come, but hopefully not for some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I got to know, what is your preferred way to eat a Nathan's hot dog?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I will, when I go in the back, I will usually put a little squirt of the cheese sauce on there.
Wow.
Part of it is if I had the time to like doctor it all up, I would probably with some onions and some other stuff and no cheese, but time is money on game day. So I got to run in the back. I got to grab a couple of dogs, throw a little bit of cheese on them, and run back up front and sit there on stage and eat them while I'm watching greatness happen.
There you go. That's how the pros do it.
I love it.
Oliver, we cannot thank you enough for taking
so much.
the time to chat with
Thanks,
us.
guys.
I know
This
you
has
have
been a
so
lot
much
of fun. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, and before we let you go, is there anything you want to plug? Anything out there? Should people be catching you anywhere on the internet, or should they just catch you right there on Surf and Stillwell on July 4th?
Just look for me at Surf and Stillwell on July 4th. Wave at me, cheer me on, whatever you want. One of the nicest moments I've ever had there, I believe you guys started a chant with my name one year.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think I was almost brought to tears. I couldn't believe that somebody in the crowd knew who lowly old me was. That was pretty cool.
And truthfully, if you see him at Ruby's, buy him a beer. That's what you got to do if you see Oliver out there on the 4th. And Oliver, hopefully many more cheers, certainly from us. And I know from the rest of the crowd on the 4th for many years to come. We so appreciate having you coming on and spending some time with us.
It's absolutely my pleasure, guys. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Mike, best of luck in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, man. We're getting close to it.
If you need any tips, I'm here for you. I'm a new father myself, so I can share any wisdom I've got if you need it.
I will definitely be taking you up on that. I guarantee I'm gonna need it.
All right, guys.
Oliver Brooks.
We're back with
us, just us.
with just us. That was Oliver Brooks. Amazing as always. I love that guy.
And we're not no hyperbole when we say something that we've been hoping we were going to be able to do for a very long time. Yeah. So thank you again to Oliver for agreeing to take the time to
our
chat
great
with
one.
us. Yeah, our great one, R99.
That's right.
Oliver Brooks.
99 hearts. And also big shouts to Wayne. Just big shouts to Wayne for the booze, for all the memories, for the couple of years with the Rangers, for bringing hockey to LA, for all that stuff.
for a great 30 for 30.
A great 30 for 30.
Absolutely.
Great hair.
And I will say, because I didn't say it on the show because I wanted to, get right to Oliver. But for episode 99, I went to 3 different liquor stores in New York City to try to find Gretzky whiskey, and I don't know if you can find it.
Truthfully, I was gonna just like hop a Porter flight right over Billy Bishop. Maybe just taking a couple of the sites, come back with a Wayne. Who knows?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But if anyone out there knows maybe a place in New York City to pick up Gretzky, or let us know all the amazing things that you think of Mr. Oliver Brooks.
Yep.
The best way to do that, of course, is to go to
twitter.com/FBTSpod.
And if 280 characters just aren't enough.
They should be,
They
Mike.
really, really should be. But you can send us an email.
Sure.
It's an electronic snail mail, and you can do that by sending it to
thinkbeatsthestomach@gmail.com.
And as I always forget to mention, we are also on Instagram.
That's right.
At FBTS Pod. And James, if only, I know Instagram's a really good place for these types of still things.
No pics.
Right, and on Twitter, someone could send you maybe a moving version of that, like a GIF.
Oh, a vid. No, you're talking about vids.
A vid, more of a vid.
Yeah.
And if they're sending you an email, an electronic snail mail, they can send you maybe a place that you can click on to go somewhere else.
Are you talking about like a URL?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a link.
But is there one place where we can get all those 3 just in one single spot?
I will warn you, though. You have to ask your parents.
Gotta do it.
Or, if you're a grandparent, you have to ask your grandchild. Weird law.
Oh,
yeah,
the
specific
reverse.
if you're going to
The
be.
reverse
Yeah,
permission.
we're actually just really trying to help the generations. You have to ask them if it's okay to use the internet, and then go to facebook.com/thinkbeatsthestomach, and that's the place to catch all those stuff.
Absolutely. And so, James, this is episode 99.
Feels great.
Feels great, which means episode 100 is coming up.
Can't believe it. Triple dig.
We don't want to reveal it here, but we have some big plans for episode 100.
I don't think so.
We'll see. Maybe, maybe not.
Could be. Who knows?
Could be. And obviously, as we get into the end of the year, not only does the competitive eating calendar slow down, but Think Beats the Stomach tends to slow down.
Yeah, enjoy our families.
Yeah,
Mike, you got some big stuff happening. We'll be spending lots of time in the suburbs of New York City, which will be a thing. And I'm really excited if we don't make another episode before 12/31 out here. A very happy 2019 to everyone who listens and watches. A very happy 2019 to you, my Fink brother.
You too, James.
And to all the Fink cousins all over the world. It's been another really fun one.
So I can't believe another year in the book.
Right?
But we are planning to have episode 100 out in 2019.
Would love to, but
knowing how we do it,
making some backup plans. We've also been very sure a lot of stuff was going to happen on Think Beats the Stomach.
It just doesn't, which is part of the show. So.
I like to think it's part of the charm.
Absolutely. So we thank you guys for sticking with us through all of that, and of course listening or watching to this episode of Think Beats the Stomach.
Happy 99, everybody.